days, right? It's like, oh man, I needed to hear all this. Sweetie, would you hand me my water bottle? It's right behind Derek. My husband, Dave, and my very good friend, Derek, and you guys for bringing such great music. Huh? 3 Ds. Right. 3 Ds. All right. Well, Paul, the Apostle Paul, says something very wise a very long time ago. In a letter to Timothy, he said, "Do not neglect the gifts you have." Do not neglect the gifts you have. Our gifts are how we express light. They can be our talents, but they are also just the way that we are being an example in the world. Our gifts are the way that we share compassion with other people. Our gifts are the way that we share kindness, how we live as an example of having an abundant life. So we are made to express light. We were made for this. Our body is a divine channel, and there's divine programming within us that allows us to do this with ease when we make the choice to do so. Because instead of serving as a light, we can serve as a warning. As a friend very wisely told me a long time ago, we can serve as a warning. And when Christ was asked about the miracles that he performed, he said, "It is not I, but the Father within that does these miracles." It is not I, the Father within. Christ was acknowledging that he was a channel for the divine to work through, that it was the indwelling spirit within that was doing these miracles through him. So he was the activity of God in a body. What he did, though, was he surrendered to his divinity, and he allowed himself to express his divine gifts. Right? So he did not neglect his gifts. He made a choice. That's all he did, was he made a choice to honor his divine nature. And that's all we have to do. We are making choices every day. Our day is filled with choices. And we're either choosing from love, so we're making choices that honor our divine nature, or we're choosing from fear, which means we're making choices based on comfort, security, limitation, afraid of stepping out of our comfort zone. Right? When we choose from fear, we're not honoring the indwelling spirit within us. Instead, we're stuck in our ego that's afraid to move forward. Every day we have to make this decision, every single day. Now, in my own journey, my own spiritual journey has just been so long. Like, I feel like I've been doing it a long time. And for a very long time, it was a pastime. It was a hobby. It was like, I just wanted to be so super spiritual so I could talk about how spiritual I was to all my spiritual friends. But what I realized was I wasn't really living it. It wasn't showing up in my life. It did not start showing up in my life until I paid attention to one of those aha moments. Okay, an aha moment is an epiphany, right? And that's what my talk today is called, the 4 Epiphanies. Because it's about 4 different epiphanies I had that when I paid attention to them, I let them work for me in my life. I actually did something with the information. Now, an epiphany is an illuminating discovery. It is a moment that brings understanding. That's different than knowing something. When we have understanding, we feel it. That's why when we have an epiphany or an aha moment, I think we always imagine it like this. Whoa. Right? That's how it feels. It's like, wow, whoa, where did that come from? That's why it feels that way. Because it's something that settles into us on a heart level and on a cellular level. We just know the truth of it. Now, an epiphany is really important because it gives us an opportunity to do things differently with what we've just received in that epiphany. We can do things differently, and then we experience transformation. When we experience a transformation, we expand our consciousness just a little bit. Right? So we're growing forward. We are growing into the next brightest version of ourselves every time we expand our consciousness a little, just a little. right? Now, the Epiphany doesn't make us have a transformation. It gives us the opportunity, right? So, because I've had like thousands of epiphanies that I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. I can't wait to tell everybody how spiritual I am. But I didn't do anything with it, okay? I didn't do anything with it. So here are my 4 epiphanies that when I actually got these, I was like, whoa. Okay, so here's my first one. I heard this from Bob Proctor, and he said, it only takes a little bit of poison. Now, when I heard that, I was like, well, what is that? I don't know, okay, it only takes a little bit of poison, like, whatever. But then I met a woman who told me that she had been bitten by a spider. She's actually telling a bunch of us this story. She'd been bitten by a teeny spider, and she had to go to the hospital. And the doctors were like, yeah, it's probably a brown recluse. We'll have to give you the antivenom, and you're going to be sick for a while, long recovery. I don't know if that's true nowadays, because I think this happened like 20 years ago. But so she was saying, though, that what was interesting is that the spider bite, it really did make her feel horrible. But then she had the experience of having well-meaning spiritual friends show up at her house and say things like, well, what negative thing were you thinking that made the spider want to bite you? Like, how are you going to grow through this now? What did you do? Right? They were like essentially blaming the victim. Now, I believe thoughts are things, but I also believe you don't just go into somebody's house and blame the victim. We're here to spread the light, not be more of the poison. All right? And so when she was telling me about this, it made me think of a very recent experience I had had where I was really excited. I was about to get out of the house and go do something. And somebody dropped by, an acquaintance dropped by to get something. And she was like, oh, so what are you off to do? Oh, I'm going to go do this and this and this. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to go to the store. Eggs have gotten so expensive. Milk is so expensive. I don't know how we're going to survive as a country. Blah, blah. And she would just, so my mood, it just kind of went, and she was only there like 5 minutes, right? When she left, I was like, I just want to go climb in bed and pull the blankets over my head. It just took a little bit of poison. That was my aha moment. It was like, wow. We have to face this kind of thinking every day. And what do we do with that thinking, right? When somebody is that heavy in their negativity, do we let it bring us down too, right? We might. So luckily there's an anti-venom for that. And Rumi, he said, this is the anti-venom, go find yourself first so you can also find me. We have to find ourselves first. We have to remember who and what we are, that we are like what we come from. We have the divine programming within us. We are the spirit, the activity of spirit walking around in a body. That's who we are. So we remember that about ourselves first. So then we can remember that about the other person. And just remind ourselves, they are the light. They're having a hard day. They're not aware of being the activity of spirit right now. They're struggling through something is what's happening. So we know if we've found ourselves by our reactions to other people, right? If we think, oh my God, that person, blah, blah, blah. We haven't found ourselves in that moment, right? So we think about where we come from. We just worry about ourselves. Where do we come from? Right? So we can see that, where they came from. We're going to have days where we're not that positive light in someone's life. We're going to have days where we're the spider, right? And we don't want those days to be numerous at all, right? So we avoid that by reminding ourselves who we are and where we come from. And we just practice that. We really can practice that over and over again. I promise you this. You remind yourself of this every day. If you write it on a card, I am from the light. I am the activity of spirit in a body. Because I managed to teach myself this. And I always feel like I'm so stubborn and so skeptical. If I can finally start believing something, anybody can start believing it. Right? So we just remind ourselves of that. We are creating a new habit. We just create a new habit. All right, so that was my first epiphany. My second epiphany. Knowledge is not enough. I know we always read on the 5 things we believe here at Unity, and it's like, knowledge is not enough, we must put it into action. And like, when I remember reading that years ago, when I first came here, and I'm like, oh yeah, knowledge is not enough. I must put it into action. I'm so spiritual that I understand that, right? That I know that. But I found out one day I really didn't get it, because I can remember the spring of 2013. I was sitting in front of my bookcase, and I was getting ready to prepare a talk, and I was like, okay, what am I going to talk on? And I'm looking at my books, and I see this whole shelf of law of attraction books, right? I see the old stuff like Thomas Troward, Ernest Holmes, Charles Fillmore's book on prosperity, Edwin Gaines, Catherine Ponder. I see the new stuff, right? The Abraham Hicks books, my personal favorite, Lynn Grabhorn's Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting. So many of them, and you know what I do? I look at those and I read all those. Why isn't that working in my life? Why can't I make the law of attraction work for me? Why am I struggling? Why is the law of attraction failing me, right? And I just keep, because I was really salty that day. Like, I was so salty. So now I'm a little saltier as I'm looking at this. Then the next shelf over is the Ultimate Guide to Weight Loss, something about a healthy body, eat right for your type, like all these diet books. And I was like, I read all those too. Then I had the epiphany. I was like, wow, I'm reading them, but I'm not doing anything with the information. I realized Eric Butterworth, he said something, and I used to love to say it all the time up until that point, and I never really got it. He said in the Discover the Power Within You that there's a condition that we go through called being overread and underdone. And I realized that's what I was doing. I was gathering information and doing nothing with it. Overread and underdone. So think about it this way. Like, I used to think I could just keep reading all these books, and I would, as I'm getting smarter and smarter, I'm getting more and more spiritual, right? You can read every cookbook that is available, and it does not make you a master chef. Not until you start cooking in your kitchen, right? You turn on that big thing that shoots fire out of it so that you heat food up, right? I'm not the cook in our house. I'm not the cook. So, he says I turn everything up like full blast. He's like, just cook everything on super high. And I'm like, it's because I wanted to cook fast. I want to cook fast. I can't wait. Okay, so we learn things, but then we want to put that knowledge to work in our lives. This is why we get inspired by things. Right? We're not going to put everything to use in our lives. Sometimes it's just fun to learn stuff. I mean, I just love reading. But when we get that inspiration, when we get that divine direction, we want to do something with that. It feels good to get inspired and then do something with that information. Follow the divine activity, because that'll always feel really exciting, because it'll put us on a new adventure. And then all of a sudden, we've created this new experience in our lives. That feels really good. And that's what we're designed to do, to keep creating new experiences in our lives. I've also had the experience of being inspired with an incredible idea, and then I didn't do anything with it. And then nothing happened. And then that didn't feel good. And then somebody else would do it. And I was just like, dang, why did the universe make that happen for them but not for me? Because they did something with the information that they got. Knowledge alone is not enough. We have to put forth the effort. It's kind of funny, in the spiritual circles especially, and I know I said this before, but there's this idea of easy and effortless, but actually everything will take some sort of effort. Now, I think really what easy and effortless is supposed to mean is smooth, no struggle, right? Because when we follow divine direction, we release the struggle, right? We surrender to spirit. We let spirit work in our lives, right? So we're not struggling. But things will still take effort, right? If we want to create something new in our life, we're going to have to do something about it. So it'll still take effort. There are just no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. Okay, the third epiphany that I had. We limit how Source works through us. That's all us. You know, there's this divine programming within each of us. A force that always knows what to do, how to do it, and it compels us to act on what it knows all the time. This force put the galaxies into their spin. And yet, I would think about something in my life, and I'd be like, I want to create like a new experience of making friends, but it's so hard. Oh, but the universe, God, put the galaxies into their spins, but what I want is kind of hard. I don't think, it can happen. Right? We do that. We will think something is too hard. We limit then how Source works through us. And so I see, personally, I feel that there are 3 ways we limit ourselves. The first way that we limit ourselves is we will think, okay, I want to create this experience. Maybe I want to increase my income, right? Well, I don't know how to do that. So I guess it's just not meant to be. Maybe I want to open a yoga studio. Well, I don't know even how to start with that. No, I guess it's not meant to be. Right? So we just give up right away. I heard Mary Morrissey, she said in one of her prosperity programs, God does not call the qualified. God qualifies the called. It's okay if we don't know how to create something. And in fact, that's actually kind of a good sign. If we want to create a new experience in our life and we don't know where to start, that's actually a good sign, because it means we have to rely on the indwelling spirit. That indwelling spirit that knows what to do, how to do it, and it compels us to act on what it knows. Okay, so there's that, the first way. The second way we limit ourselves is we think we know how to do it, and it's our way or no way at all, right? Now, when we think it has to be done a specific way, just this way, we limit all the other possibilities that are open to us. So my family, we love to go to Idlewild. And I've been taking my kids up there since they were really little. And there's a place up there called the Candy Cupboard. And this was the most hilarious day. So the kids had seen a little girl come out of the candy cupboard. And they had the vanilla ice cream on a stick. And they would dip it in chocolate. And then roll it in some kind of goodie, right? Well, this little girl had it rolled in rainbow sprinkles. So my kids were like, Mom, we're getting the rainbow sprinkles today. And I'm like, okay, fine. So we make our way to the candy cupboard. And they're picking out their ice cream already. Sprinkles, sprinkles. Well, I look, and there's this big menu of stuff that's actually available. Like crazy stuff, like nuts. I mean, you expect like ground up nuts or whatever on ice cream, but also M&Ms, marshmallows, chocolate chips, right? So you're dipping a vanilla ice cream in chocolate, and then you're rolling it in chocolate chips. That was an available option. So I tell my kids, there's a lot of stuff that you could roll your ice cream in. No, we want rainbow sprinkles. I'm like, okay, fine. So they get their rainbow sprinkles. We go sit outside. They're eating their ice cream. They're like, this is the best ice cream ever. And then they see this guy come walking out of there. And his ice cream, I kid you not, had like marshmallows and M&Ms all over it. And my kids are like, so the next time we went up to Candy Cupboard, like a couple months later, we walk in, and they were like, Mom, you tell us everything up there on that menu. They had to hear all of it, right? We limit our available options when we think we know the way, okay? The third way that we limit how Spirit works through us is we settle for a lesser version of what we asked for, right? We settle for a lesser version. So like somebody has I knew this happened to somebody. She wanted to buy her dream house, and this was in early 2016. The market starts climbing. She hurries up and buys a house because she doesn't want to have to pay higher prices. And she was like, yeah, my house is okay. But she bought it, and like a couple months later, her dream house came on the market. But because she acted out of fear, she ends up with a house she didn't really want. Florence Scovel Shinn, who wrote the book, The Game of Life and How to Play It, she calls this signs of land. Signs of land. Now, when we, you think about the sailors who used to sail the high seas and go looking for new countries to discover. They'd be in the water in their boats, and they look down, and they see twigs and sticks and leaves, birds flying around, and they would be like, oh, okay, we're close. Even if they could not yet see land on the horizon, they saw signs of land. They didn't say sticks and twigs and leaves, that's it. Well, we're going home, man. This is a big disappointment. Okay, they didn't say that. Okay, so Florence Scovel Shinn is saying that if somebody is dating because they want to meet their new life partner and start a family, but then they start worrying, well, maybe this isn't going to happen. Well, this person's okay. We get along. I'll just get married, right? Or somebody's starting a job hunt, right? And they settle for just any job because they're like, well, I'm just worried about not having work. Okay, this is when we settle for a lesser version of what we really want. Now, Florence Scovel Shinn says that when lesser versions of this new experience show up in our life, this is actually a really good thing because it means the next brightest thing is on its way, right? So we have lesser versions showing up to kind of open the way for us, okay? So just see it as a good sign, like those sailors did. Sticks and twigs, we're going to be there soon. We will be there soon. All right, so if we don't know something, we don't know how to do something, okay, remember that's okay. You don't have to know how to do it. Spirit will lead the way. Be open to possible ways that something could manifest in your life because you just never know how you're going to be surprised by Spirit. And don't settle. Don't settle. Let yourself be surprised. The universe is perfectly capable of exceeding your expectations. Okay, perfectly capable. Christ had said it's your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. What he's saying is within us, we have the ability to create a beautiful life. There is that within us. That indwelling Spirit is within us, always guiding us. And then Paul said, for it is God who inspires you with the will to do the good things which you desire to do. Do all these things without doubting and disputing. Just do it. Right? The most paraphrased verse in the Bible. Just do it. The inspiration was put there by God. The inspiration was put there by who? You say God. The inspiration was put there by God. Thank you, right? So we just try it on. We want to create something in our life. Don't judge it. Don't measure it out. Just try it on. Let Spirit lead the way. Okay, the fourth epiphany was learning to let go. Right, we all know this, right? Spiritual circles, the big thing is, well, just let it go, right? Well, I used to think that letting it go meant stop talking about it and just dwell on it inside and lament about it, but don't tell anybody that I am, right? So they all think I've let it go. That's what I used to think. But then Wayne Dyer said something. He said, conflict cannot survive without your participation. If we cannot let something go, we are in conflict, and we will have a limited view of our life. If we cannot let something go, this goes back to that we are the only ones who limit the activity of Spirit in our lives, right? If we can't let go of something. So the thing that actually gave me the epiphany about this was listening to a lecture by Carolyn Mace. And she wrote Anatomy of the Spirit, and she does like so many books and programs on energy healing. What she said is that we all have these past events in our history that make us crazy because they didn't turn out how we wanted them to turn out. But when we dwell on those past events, what we're doing is we're taking our life force, our vital life force, and we are sending it into the past, which means we don't have 100% of our vital life force right here. We're sending it away. And our life force is not meant to time travel, but we think it can. We think we're going to send it back into the past and it'll fix everything back there, right? Now, without this life force, okay, that we're sending away to past events, what happens is we have less vital life force here in the present to manage the health and well-being of our own physical body and of the management of our life. When we dwell on something in the past, we're messing with our own well-being right here in the future. That doesn't sound very good, does it? We're losing power when we do that. That's what gave me the epiphany. It's like we are losing power when we dwell on something. So letting go, we just want to remind ourselves, source is everywhere present in all things, even in that event back there, so we can take our mind off of the event back there, stop focusing on the problem, and instead be here, where solutions can come forth. Be here, where we'll be given what we need to rise above whatever happened way back then. We need to be able to rise above that to go forward, and we gather all of our life force back to us. That's why we want to let go. That's why we want to let go. So we want to remember the 4 epiphanies, right? And I think they're important because they managed to get me moving forward. The first one It only takes a little bit of poison, and the anti-venom is right within us, right? To remind ourselves who we are, where we come from, what it is that we have moving through us, for us, as us, that we're activity of spirit and body. The second epiphany, knowledge is not enough. It's just facts and information, but we can put it to work in our lives. That's what we should be doing with the knowledge that we have. We should make it work for us. Okay, make it work for us. The third thing we do is we limit how Source works through us. Okay, remember, Source is expansive. And Source puts the divine programming of everything in its expressions. We are an expression of it. And it put the galaxies into their spin. Right? What couldn't it do in our lives if we just let it do it? Right? Let it do what it's going to do. And then learn to release and let go. Let go. So we call all of our energy back to us. We let go of suffering and conflict. We can let the universe exceed our expectations. Does that sound good? Exceed our expectations. We can get an idea of what we want, but the universe can see bigger. The universe can see something brighter. So in the book of Colossians, it says, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. Putting on love is when we remind ourselves who and what we are. We get in alignment. We commune with the indwelling spirit. And love binds everything together in perfect harmony. So when we are communing with the indwelling spirit, we bring harmony into our lives. Doesn't that sound good? We are an expansive force. Okay, wait a second. We bring harmony into our lives. Doesn't that sound good? Yes, it does. It does. Okay, so we are that expansive force, that activity of spirit in the body. All we have to do is choose to do it. That is all we have to do, is just choose to do it. Choose it. So until next time, remember, you are the activity of spirit in the body. You are the heart and the hands of spirit in this world. You are a soul designed for growth and goodness, and in everything you do, you are blessed. And so it is. So thank you. Thank you. All right, before we do our offering, we have a little song gift for you. So if everybody wants to come up here and join me. This is an original song of mine. It's called My Epiphany.